my gosh, we've got the godmother of Congress, Pramila Jayapal. Hey, Pramila.
Hi, Amar. How are you?
Great. I mean, you are the first Indian American in the House. So congratulations. And you had a very thumping victory, I should say. So congratulations on being reelected.
Thank you so much. We're not done yet, but I'm at 85%. So hopefully it keeps going up.
Great. And we got the godfather of the Indian American community, Bera. How about that? Hey guys, we got two amazing people. You were the first one.
I guess we're the godparents, Pramila.
I guess so. I guess so. I wonder, we'll have to figure out what gifts we're giving to everybody now.
Absolutely. Exactly. You guys rock. And I have to say this, when you and I talked at the presidential ball in 2013, I asked you what's going to happen in the future. I still remember, you aspiring that one day we're going to have an Indian American president, and we've come pretty close.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. And I remember at that inaugural ball, we also said, look, I was the only Indian American in Congress. It's like, look, over this next decade, let's get to 5 Indian Americans in Congress. It didn't take us a decade. We got there in 2016 with Pramila, Raja, Ro.
Again, you're come on, and we got to get some more women. We got 3 guys, 3 guys and 2 women. We got to get more women. Right.
We're working on it. I mean, hopefully Hero pulls it out, right, Ami? It looks very close in Arizona, but I've been talking to her, and Ami really is the godfather. I remember when I was running, he was so generous with his time and his advice and his support, and I so appreciate it. And I tried to do the same for Hero this time around, as well as Shri. Unfortunately, Shri didn't quite pull it out at the end, but I keep saying to Hero, this is your moment. I think we can, I think you've got this. And she was such a fabulous candidate. So we're waiting to see those results.
Great. I really do think Hero is up just a bit right now, but there's a lot of votes in Maricopa County that should go Hero's direction. So we're cautiously optimistic, but as I've lived through in some of my races, sometimes you got to be a little patient and let all the votes get counted. But I think we'll be pleasantly surprised with Hero.
You're right, Ami. I mean, Hero is a well-known quantity in her own right now in Arizona. But I think in addition to that, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's coattails, and indeed Mark Kelly's coattails, will assist as well. So, hoping to have another Indian American as part of the Samosa caucus pretty soon.
Absolutely. And we're sad about losing Shree's race in Houston, and also Sarah Gideon in the main Senate race. That one hurts. I think we really were hoping that we would get the Senate. Let's not forget that there's 2 Georgia races coming up in January 5th that we're going to have to be focused on.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you a question. If there's a new Senate and it's divided, we got to unite the country. How are you guys both? There's a question for both of you. How do you plan to kind of navigate that with a divided Congress?
I'll go and take a crack at it, because that's a question I've been getting asked a lot today in the interviews that I've been doing. I think some of it really does, what kind of a Mitch McConnell do we see? And what is a post-Trump Republican Party? Is it just an opposition party that is just there to block legislation? I also, Vice President Biden spent 36 years in the Senate. Will he have the relationships to try to get some things done? I think our agenda, if you look at the robust policies that we've already passed in this Congress, HR 1 through HR 10, we can update some of that stuff, and bring that forward. But a lot of it, is Mitch McConnell just going to be, do what he did to Barack Obama and just be in opposition, which then makes it hard for us to get anything done. And then it does force Joe Biden, potential President Biden, to do things through executive action. I think we'd rather legislate so you could codify things and not just have a future Republican president undo those executive actions. But there's a lot that we certainly are going to try to work on.
No, that's and Pramila, you're on the more progressive side of the caucus and so forth. So how do you deal with people on the other side, really literally way to the right?
Well, I think Ami's right. I agree with what Ami said. I would just take a step backward and say, or maybe it's really a step forward and say, first of all, how amazing it is that we are, I believe, going to be electing a new president. We will be electing Joe Biden as president. We will be electing Kamala Harris as vice president. How incredible. We talked about, the changes in the House since Ami first came in, but how amazing and joyful it is that we will be electing the first woman of color to a major presidential party ticket, first Black woman, first South Asian American woman. I just think that's really phenomenal. And we're not always so good at celebrating our victories, but this is an important one in that we not only, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris not only won the popular vote, which happened with Hillary Clinton in 2016, they are going to win the electoral college vote. And that is really significant. And I think, job number one was always to get Donald Trump out of the White House, and we succeeded in that. So I think that is a really important thing. When you look at those results, here is the path forward the Democratic Party is going to have to make sure we stick to. And that is, we won the states of, when this is all said and done, I assume we will win Michigan, Wisconsin. I think we have a very good shot of winning Pennsylvania still, and Arizona. What you see is that we won in large part because of massive turnout of our base voters in urban dense areas, places like Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Madison, etc., Detroit. And that is really important to remember, that we were able to all be unified, but also have a progressive enough platform that Joe Biden was running on, that people recognized that they needed to get out and vote for Joe Biden, and that he had the most progressive platform of any president in a long time. And so that makes me really proud, because I think for a long time, we forget sometimes that our base, our progressive base, young people, folks of color, working people, are actually the ultimate swing voter. When they don't vote, we lose. That's what happened. And I'm talking about the White House now. There's a different math in our House districts, and it's very difficult for us, both Ami and me, to see many of our colleagues lose across the board in the House. We are going to lose some seats in the House. And they're not all progressive members, but it doesn't matter. They're all members that we work very closely with, and we care very much about each and every one of them. And so I think that's just an important thing to keep in mind as we go forward. We do, we're dealing with a Republican Senate in Mitch McConnell, and this last president, this current president, I guess, until his time is done, who had no regard for the truth, had no regard for the rules, rolled over everyone in order to get things done. We do have to be able to show that a Joe Biden presidency and a Congress, even in a divided Congress, is going to be able to deliver for working folks across the country. We've got to be able to put money in people's pockets. We've got to be able to help them see that their life is better. And we've got to keep our young people and folks of color with us, because we need that turnout across the board. So that's what I'm looking at. I agree with everything Ami said. You can see very clearly what the Democratic priorities are in HR 1 through 10. Sure, sometimes in the family we have struggles about, can we make this stronger? That's always the role of the Progressive Caucus, is we want to push for this to be better. We want to make this cover more people. And we're going to continue to do that. But we always do it recognizing that there's a real threat out there, and it's the Republican Senate. It's the Trump Republican Party that has taken that party so away from core basic values of compassion and decency and respect.
I think, MR, if I could just expand, as we're doing some of the postmortem on last night, and where a lot of the polling and analytics got things wrong in some of these congressional races, and certainly some of the Senate races, I think there is a core group of voters that just come out for Donald Trump because Donald Trump was on the ballot. And we have to understand who those voters are, because they may not be Republican voters per se. There may be something that he's saying to them about trade or, getting out of wars, et cetera, that, they could be voting Democratic if we were talking to them in the same way. And then the second thing that I think we have to think about is the 2022 Senate playing field is favorable to Democrats. And, will there be an opportunity if we're pushing pragmatic legislation over to the Senate that there will be vulnerable senators that are willing to work with us? Can you get a Mitt Romney in a post-Trump world to actually work with us on the Affordable Care Act, work with us on expanding healthcare, work with us on defeating this virus and making a free vaccine available to everyone? So I'm an optimist by nature, and I always want to give folks a chance. I don't sense Mitch McConnell is going to be that fun to work with, but maybe there are a Mitt Romney or maybe a Susan Collins, now that the election's in the background, to understand we're in a deep pandemic, we're in a deep economic recession. Now's the time for us to actually try to heal this country.
The other thing that's kind of interesting is what happened in some of the statewide initiatives across the country. I know we're still waiting for all the results to come in, but I found it fascinating and heartening that Florida, even as Democrats lost the state, Florida passed a $15 minimum wage with a supermajority. We're not talking about just a majority, a supermajority. Arizona, Montana, South Dakota, and New Jersey legalized marijuana. Colorado passed paid family leave and rejected an abortion ban. California, I know you guys, Ami, are still counting there, but I believe you restored voting rights to people on parole, and Nebraska voted to limit predatory lending. So those are also really important pieces to think about. There's a lot happening through statewide initiative, and we Democrats have passed a $15 minimum wage in the House with the support of the Democratic caucus. We should be able to immediately do that in a new Congress, because that is a populist policy that even states that voted for Donald Trump are voting for.
It's such a pleasure and such a delight for us to have you both, Pramila and Ami, here at this on this broadcast. And we do have several political junkies as part of this broadcast as well, who would know some of the inside baseball. So I guess I have a couple of questions, one for each of you. Pramila, in your case first, you alluded to the fact that there are always these sort of debates, discussions, push and pull, as there should be within the Democratic caucus about, how progressive to go on bills or, that kind of thing, and which is a natural discussion. But do you also sense that, like you were giving the Florida example, that the progressive wing is actually mirroring some portions of the country, even those that may be towards the right of the political spectrum, where on economic issues, there may be some meeting of the minds between those folks and you guys?
Yes, I think that's an excellently phrased question, and I do think that's true. There was a study done, I think it was by Northwestern, and I forget, some university in New York, that showed that actually there are a number of Congress members who are more conservative than their districts. And I think that if we were to pass HR 1, which passed the Democratic House, if we were to, get money out of politics and restrict, bring about more accountability, perhaps members of Congress could reflect their districts more accurately. That may be one thing that could happen. But I do think on populist policies like a $15 minimum wage, it is my belief, and I say this as a loving Democrat, that we have waited too long to bring about real economic change to working people. We passed a $15 minimum wage here in Seattle 10 years ago. When we passed it 10 years ago, and I was on that committee that passed that $15 minimum wage, we were called, crazy. This could never be mainstream Democratic priority. 10 years later, it is, and I'm happy for that. But I think that sometimes we are behind the times, and I think there are a lot of people across the country, Republicans and Democrats, who just feel Congress doesn't work for them. And we have to change that. We have to talk to the voters that we have lost, but we also have to remember that, we have a progressive, young folks of color generation. You look at Arizona, And the changes that have happened to Arizona, as Arizona has gone blue, it's because of young people, folks of color, more progressives that have moved into that state. So we've got to play that, we've got to walk that balance. But I do think there are a lot of populist policies that Republican and Democratic voters agree with, and that we need to make sure we pass in Congress. We've just got to deliver relief to people, because Donald Trump was both a massive problem in and of himself, but he was also a symptom. He was elected because there were a lot of people across the country who felt like they weren't being listened to. So I hope we take that into account as we go forward, and I believe we can. And we've shown what a Democratic majority can do.
Thanks, Pramila. And Ami, in your case, I have a question for you pertaining more to your races. I mean, I followed your career in Congress, where you've been reelected successively on different occasions. And, normally one finds that your race is very tight. This time, obviously, you had a thumping victory in your race. And I'm just curious, what led to that? Is it the fact that it was different opponents each time? Is it the fact that your district is now obviously very familiar with you and respects what you've done? Is it your leadership on the Foreign Affairs Committee? What is it that leads to these bigger margins of victory?
Well, it certainly feels better to be 21 points in a 60-40 race than, as in 2014, I was 3,000 votes down when I woke up the morning after the election. I think it's, just making sure you understand your district, that you serve your constituents, that you meet their needs. That's the most important thing for any of our jobs, is to really be there and listen to our constituents. It's been 8 years now serving my district. So, they know me, they know what my values are and how responsive our office is. So I think that's a component of it. The best way to get reelected is to do your job and be responsive to your district. And I think that's what we've tried to model and do. The district also probably has, as folks have been priced out of San Francisco and they've moved to Sacramento, I think, it's gotten a little bit more democratic. And, again, it's better to win by tens of thousands of votes than be 3,000 votes down.
So I have a last question before we let you go, and that is the pollsters. We started yesterday saying, Biden's leading nationally by 10 points. And when you look at the popular vote, it's 2 or 3 points. So what do we do with polling and the pollsters? Do we just get rid of those guys and just run your races as you see fit?
No, we've done a lot of analysis today, and I think we will do a lot of postmortem. But we missed something in 2016. I think you saw a huge turnout come out for Joe Biden and a broad coalition that he was able to make. But Donald Trump actually boosted his turnout as well. And again, I think we have to understand that Trump voter. I think far too often, we characterize the Trump voter, but he did make inroads with the Latinx community. He made some inroads with the African-American community. And I think there are voters that may only come out to vote for him because he's speaking to their issues. And they may not be Democrat or Republican. There may just be niche issues like trade or global engagement in the wars and things like that, we can certainly talk to them about those issues as well. We just may not be talking to those voters, but I think we have to better understand it, because it wasn't just the presidential race. There were wide misses on some of these Senate races as well.
Great.
Yeah, I think that just quickly on that, I think that we should take a bunch of the money we spend on pollsters and we should put it into organizing on the ground. I mean, my understanding from some of the things I'm hearing and the analysis that I'm hearing, Donald Trump had people on the ground for a year in Florida working that Cuban community, the Venezuelan community. There were other issues there, the tagging of Joe Biden as a socialist, which of course has happened to every president, including Teddy Roosevelt, furthest away from socialism. But he also was working people on the ground. And I would like to see us relying less on polling, because it just is increasingly becoming imperfect in getting us what we want. But I'm really excited to continue to serve with Ami. I'm thrilled that we don't have to wait, with bated breath for Ami's results this year. And we still feel good about hopefully welcoming another Indian American woman, which would be so fantastic. We're happy when we're the first, but we never want to be the last. So thank you so much, Ami, and thank you, Indiaspora, for everything that you are doing.
Great. Ami and, Pramila, it's great to have you show the leadership and be on top of our show as well today as we go along. So thank you so much and all the best in the months and years to come.
Great.
Thank you. Take
Thanks,
care.
Ami, Pramila.